advocates for recognizing and mainstreaming esports have long relied on comparisons to athletic sports. This is for good reason. We did decide to call them esports, after all. These advocates will stress the similarities because not enough people recognize how much value there is in competing in esports, that it's a great way to learn life skills, find community, and have fun. Opponents will stress the dissimilarities, the lack of cardiovascular exertion, for example, but I find that they never actually stress the dissimilarity that affects esports the most negatively. That is the fact that esports are not owned collectively by the people of Earth, but by an individual company with a business interest in it. Imagine that Major League Baseball owned baseball. Like, in order to play baseball at all in any form, you needed to pay Major League Baseball for the right to do that, and unlicensed baseball playing could subject you to an intellectual property lawsuit. The World Series would be the biggest baseball event around, not just from popularity, but because they can guarantee it will be the largest through their ownership of the game. Now imagine that this alternate universe decides to change the World Series rules to coach pitch. Why wouldn't they? After all, statistically speaking, that's the way the vast majority of people experience their game. I only played baseball for a few years after coach pitch, and I know a lot of kids dropped it after that one coach pitch season. Now, any new player can immediately play exactly like the pros do that they saw on TV. It just makes sense. Alternate Universe Baseball has a lot more competitors. Imagine that there's a whole baseball genre of sport, and all the people who like baseball get split between the different versions, die-hard fans only of the specific way they like to play. It's a completely different skill set learning Street Fighter than learning BlazBlue than learning Mortal Kombat, even though people looking at the game from the outside see two characters fighting with health bars. So it would be with baseball and Fortress Orb. Now, it's a lot harder to make any particular event big and eye-catching to the media and advertisers, because you can only ever get a fraction of the enthusiastic audience to watch any given thing. You're also far less likely to get the leadership, content creators, and production people, top players, whale investors, the human capital that drives a game. Instead of having a large population of people focused on making one thing big, those individual talents and resources are divided up among all the different variations and never have the chance to work together synergistically. A business also has no inherent interest in keeping one game alive for a long time. A business that only ever sells its customers one product is not going to be as successful as a business that sells the same number of customers two products. Gamers have been conditioned by marketing and influencers to move from one new exciting game to the next new exciting game, which puts the pressure on devs to keep creating new things instead of supporting the things they've already made. Imagine suddenly there's a Baseball 2, and that no one is playing Baseball 1 anymore, even if you liked that game better, and now you have to pay for it a second time. Yes, variations on sports have happened, especially in earlier days. There's American football, Australian football, rugby, all in addition to the sport most of the world calls just plain football. And those did evolve from a common ancestor in the way that video game genres do. Thing is, I can probably name more games in just the Call of Duty franchise, and mind you, I don't play Call of Duty, than I can name in anything remotely resembling a version of baseball. So you've got the first Call of Duty, which I think was just called Call of Duty. There's a game called World at War. There's Black Ops, Black Ops 2, Ghosts, Modern Warfare 2. I think that's enough, because then in baseball, it's just like softball. I guess you could call cricket kind of similar. I don't even know which of those came first. Kickball, wiffle ball. Like, we're even stretching it with kickball. That's about all I got. And that's just Call of Duty. There's also Valorant, Battlefield, whatever version of Counter-Strike people are playing these days. There are hero shooters, like Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, Deadlock, movement shooters. You got like Titanfall, Apex Legends. If we want to branch out into battle royales, I mean, Apex Legends kind of fits into both, but that doesn't save it. Those are just competitive team shooters. There are extraction shooters, PvE co-op shooters, and I haven't even gotten to Straftat yet. In all of these lists, I've left out the most important shooter of our generation. There are probably more subgenres of PvP shooter than there are versions of baseball. The Fortress Orb-like subgenre is going to be too niche to solicit sufficient player counts and investment for any one representative to get mainstream for very long. Unlike with real-life baseball, alternate universe baseball is a lot less likely to get passed down from one generation to the next. If anything, the new generation is going to have the knowledge of the current version of baseball that they'll need to pass on to their parents instead of the other way around. It may have a lot of the same elements their parents can appreciate or see as objective improvements even, but it won't feel the same for them. It won't evoke the same nostalgia. It may rely on different skill sets after that many iterations. There are grandparents now who grew up playing video games, but the video games they were playing might have been Miss Pac-Man or Space Invaders, Atari games. That's not going to translate into being good at Valorant. When the games change as people grow older, it's harder for that hobby to reach into adult spaces, into workplaces, and start finding the investment to get it on TV and start building community infrastructure to support it at scale. Why invest long-term in something that, statistically speaking, won't even be around in 5 years? One approach is to stick to the same game, but to keep mixing things up every year to put a new spin on it and keep it fresh for everyone. You can play baseball after one purchase, but this season, cork bats are legal. Okay, wait, those were too strong. We're going to make it so you're allowed to have less cork per bat, and we're going to make it so that the fielder's gloves are better at catching the ball. Alright, went overboard with that one, and now no one's scoring. We're making the outfield harder for the fielders to run on, so as long as you can clear the infield with the hit, you'll be a lot more likely to get on base. Okay, wait, we just accidentally killed bunting. Another approach is for a community to pick an earlier version of the game and decide collectively not to move on to the new versions when they come out. If you can successfully organize this, now the game won't change at all, and you get to pick which version of the game the community likes best and never have to see it go. It does mean there will probably be some antagonism with the developer, and in fact it probably won't happen unless people get pretty collectively angry with the developer about something in the first place, but it is a way forward until that developer shuts off the servers that you need to play online. It's a lot harder to secure any investment with, too, because if a group of players was willing to treat the game developer's big company like that, why wouldn't they be willing to treat your big company that's investing in them like that? The funding sources of the most successful esports right now are kind of the exceptions to the rule. Esports has been a bubble industry. There's been a lot of venture capital flung at it for no reason, and that bubble's largely burst since the end of COVID. While lots of things have scaled back in that time, there is a silver lining in that now whatever remains is something that's probably a lot more sustainable, something we know will stick around that we can try to build on. Still, without some big win, like the TV rights deals that got established with mainstream sports, and in a weakened economy, it's getting harder and harder to imagine esports reaching the same level of notoriety as athletic sports. Not because they're a waste of time and make you fat and angry and lazy, but because of these practical issues that we don't seem to have answers for right now.